Unflinching.
Unflinching. Dirk had unflinching commitments to conservation. Tenure steady.
Tanya Steele.
Tanya Steele, Chief Executive of the World Wildlife Fund UK, has described the Duke of Edinburgh as a visionary conservationist. He was ahead of his time, she told BBC Breakfast, adding that he followed the science very closely. He certainly used his position both to raise the issues, to speak powerfully, but he was a man of action, and he was really determined to ensure there was action, both to conserve space both to conserve species, but actually to conserve our whole natural world, on which we rely for so very much. Asked about how Princess Philip's love of game hunting trimmed with his role as a conservationist, Ms. Steele conceded that in 2021, photographs of the Duke shooting a tiger in India did feel very out of place to us. But what we do know is that the Duke did focus his efforts very resolutely. From the end of 1961, both on conserving species and ensuring that we tightened environmental laws and created natural reserves so it could be protected for future generations. His commitment was unflinching throughout.
Tremendous.
Prince Philip had tremendous naval knowledge.
Naval
knowledge. Former First Sea Lord and Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Sir Jonathan Band, said the Duke was an absolute natural as a naval officer. St. Jonathan's speculated that the premature death of the Queen's father, King George VI, had cut short Prince Philip's naval career, and he would certainly have made commander and command bigger ships, which there is no doubt he would have loved. He was a Class 6 naval officer, the rest talking no family good with people. His knowledge was just tremendous. Tremendous. His knowledge was just tremendous, said Sir Jonathan, commenting on the Duke's ongoing interest in all things naval over the course of his long life. Whenever we were asked to brief him, we wondered afterwards why we had actually done that, because he seemed to know more than us. He was a great believer in a crew. He understood a ship's company's values. When you saw him with a group of sailors and marines, it was just natural. Sir Jonathan told the BBC's George
Maguire.
John Maguire, that the Duke went on to become a reformer, embracing the changes uh, dictated by a changing society. He was a great believer that the servants had to reflect the society they serve, he said. Sir Jonathan said the gun salute, due to take place from midday on Saturday across the UK and in parts of the Commonwealth, was the traditional way to say goodbye to Greek sailors. Sailors, sailors,
Sailors.
sailors. If there is a regret. In the circumstance we're in, is that some of the page page entry, pageantry,
Pageantry.
pageantry is that some of the pageantry that might have gone with a more formal funeral, funeral. Formal funeral won't be possible and won't be appropriate because I think the Navy would like to do that. Duke to be remembered as Grand National later. The Duke of Edinburgh will be remembered as the Grand National, which will take place at a entry later today.
Entry.
Entry later today. There will be a 2-minute silence before the race, and riders will wear black armbands. Last year's race was cancelled because of the coronavirus pandemic, and this year's event at 17:15 BST will be held without spectators. I spoke French before you were born. Canada 8 p.m. records Duke. Canadian 8 p.m. Jan. Gene
Creation.
Gene Creation, who served from 1993 to 2003, has been recording his conversations with Prince Philip. I met him as Prime Minister many times, and very often I was sitting next to him, and we could talk about many things. He was knowledgeable, very knowledgeable, about politics around the globe. The first time I met him, I was a young minister. I was only 33. I was with a group of people speaking French. When we arrived, he spoke in French with me, and I said, Sir, Your Royal Highness, you speak very good French for an Englishman. And he replied, I'm not an Englishman, and I spoke French before you were born, young man. Flowers left as Paris gates again as public paid their respects. For a second day, a small but steady group of people have begun to arrive at Buckingham Palace with flowers. There was currently about 15 tributes lit at the gate. Floral tributes and wreaths left yesterday were taken inside the palace gates over lights. A number of messages tied to the gates tied to the gates, all referred to Prince Philip's sense of duty and service to the nation. They too were removed in the last half hour. The most charismatic person. Charismatic.
Charismatic.
The most charismatic person I have ever met. BBC Breakfast is asking viewers to write in with their experience of the Duke of Edinburgh Award. It was 1978 and I was only 17 and the award changed my life, writes Heron. An opportunity to take children whose lives had been affected by the Troubles to holiday together, irrespective of their religious background, a life-changing experience, she recalls. To go to the palace to receive my gold award from the Duke was a massive adventure at that time. He was the most charismatic person I have ever met. The scene at Windsor Castle. Unlike the Union Jacks on royal and government buildings, which are firing at half-mast, the Royal Standard above Windsor Castle is not. It never does. The Queen, who is staying at the castle, is in mourning, but decisions have to be made about the funeral arrangements. As soon as she was approved the plans, they will be made public. The bands of flowers which were left yesterday outside the gates were all taken inside last night. Despite the request to donate to charity instead of bringing flowers, a few more bunches have been left already this morning. People want to show their appreciation for a long life lived in service to Queen and country. One message reads, "Extraordinary man, extraordinary life. National hero, nothing more needs to be said." There was also a tribute this morning from members of the household cavalry who lined up opposite the castle. They gave a salute and observed a 2-minute silence. D of E awoke one of the best things I did, says
Paralympian.
Paralympian, says Paralympian. 5-time Paralympian champion Hannah Cockcroft. Hannah Cockcroft told the BBC that the Duke of Edinburgh Award was one of the best things I did when I was younger. The British wheelchair raiser said, "She won't be where I'm now without the independence and confidence that taking part in the award had given her as a child. At a time when she was struggling to come to terms with her dependence on a wheelchair, wheel, 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 wheelchair. The award pushed me out of my comfort zone," comfort zone. It made me accept my disability. I learned so much about myself, she told BBC Breakfast. She also paid tribute to the Duke's ability to put those he met at ease, particularly young people often intimidated by the idea of meeting a senior member of the royal family. Tribute.
Tribute.
His name is the Arok, but you don't always expect to meet the person behind it. And he really took time out to do that and showed an interest. I remember one of the times I met him, he was quite concerned because I am a wheelchair user. He was quite concerned that he was looking down on me. He said, "Well, how would you prefer that I spoke to you? As a wheelchair user, do you want me to crouch down next to you? Do you mind if I look down? You tell me what to do and I'll do that." The funny thing is, people every day don't ask you that, so it is the last thing you expect to hear from the Duke of Edinburgh. But he really wanted to get it right, and I just think that was lovely. The Paralympian said she hoped that more people would learn about the Duke of Edinburgh Rock as a consequence of the Duke's death and benefits from the valuable experience it had given her. Duke remembered that in Australia and New Zealand, the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison will attend a church service in Sydney on Sunday to pray for the Queen and the royal family. Australia's Governor General David Hurley Hurley will also attend the service at St Andrew's Cathedral.
Service.
Service at Cathedral.
Cathedral.
And there will be a 41-gun salute outside Parliament House today. In New Zealand, the Army will fire a 41-gun salute at midday local time on Sunday from Point Gillingham in Wellington. Iron group that reserve the Duke will mourn the Duke with dancing. Condolence, mourn. A rainforest community in the South Pacific island nation of
Vanuatu.
Vanuatu reserved Prince Philip as the reincarnation of an ancient warrior. The group, based in village on the island of Tanna in the former Anglo-French colony, treated him as a god. Prince Philip has visited Vanuatu, Vanuatu as part of his official tours. The Daily Telegraph has spoken to
Kirk Huffman.
Curve Huffman, an authority on the group, who said they greet his death with ritual wearing and ceremonial dancing. I imagine there will be some ritual wearing, some special dance, he said. There will be a focus on the man drinking cover and infusion made from the roots of a pepper plant. It is the key to opening the door to the intangible world. A rock, a hero, and one of a kind. As news of Prince Philip's death spread, people made their way to Buckingham Palace yesterday to pay tribute and reflect on the Duke's life and the Queen's loss. Young or old, there didn't seem to be a soul outside the palace on the day of Prince Philip's death who didn't feel deep sympathy and sorrow for the Queen. I don't think you have to be a rampant royalist to just feel really sad for the Queen, said 56-year-old Louise Simister from Bedfordshire. She took her teenager daughters on a diversion from a trip to the COVID Memorial Wall to Buckingham Palace. While an unsuccessful halt to buy flowers to run off was being a day of reflection of her family. Daisy, her 17-year-old daughter, who said she's no royalist, has been surprised by just how shocked she was by the news. All my friends were quite shocked, she says. I've never experienced a royal death. Prince Philip did a lot of good, Sir Michael Palin. Sir Michael Palin. Sir Michael Palin, the group throating presenter and Monty Negrin met the Duke on a number of occasions. He told BBC 5 Live he had been impressed by his approach to the work and his dedication to whatever he was doing, whilst never being too seriously duty bound. He always used to have a bit of a twinkle in his eye. Parental presenter Tony Liberty. Liberty. Tony Liberty. He didn't really like Frano, and I think that was a good aspect of his personality. He didn't really like Frano, and I think that was a good aspect of his personality. He was very straightforward, usually very direct, but he used humor, but he used humor a lot and could be very funny. The comedian and broadcaster highlighted the Duke's rapport with children, many of whom he met as part of the pioneering of the pioneering Duke of Edinburgh's game. He did his bit from a privileged position, but I think deep down he did a lot of good in pursuing his various interests and helping people to get things done, people who would not have been able to get them done without his support. It was very important to him not to merely be standing behind Her Majesty, but to be learning and contributing as he went along. Affection for Duke among countless sailors and marines, head of Royal Navy. The head of the Royal Navy, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, has shared his tributes to the Duke, who saw active service on board a number of ships in World War II. His Royal Highness served the Royal Navy with distinction during wartime, mentioned in dispatches for bravery and enterprise during the Battle of Cape Matapan, said the First Sea Law, referring to the naval battle in 1941 off the coast of Greece. Greece, 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 Greece,
Greece.
Greece. As the officer in charge of the ship's searchlight, the Duke played a crucial role in this decisive decision. Decisive. This decisive light action, mentioned in dispatches, means his name appeared in an official report which was sent to high command. Abd Vatican said the Duke remained an enduring friend and supporter of the Royal Navy with a deep understanding of our arrows and values. His humor and generosity of spirit generated great affection amongst the countless sailors and marines he met each year. His genuine empathy, affinity, and engagement with the Royal Navy resonated with us all. He will be deeply missed. Australia PM hails Dukes a unique and authentic personality. Unique and authentic, authentic, unique and authentic personality. The flag over the Sydney Harbour Bridge has been lowered at half-mast, so too has lowered at half-mast. So too has the one over Australia's Parliament House in Canberra. The Prime Minister Scott Morrison said memories of Prince Philip will be of his candor and of a unique, forceful, and authentic personality, but above all, of a man who could be relied upon, always standing by his queen. Prince Philip has had a long and enduring relationship with Australia. His military service brought him here on board a battleship in 1940, but it was in 1954 that he arrived at Sydney Harbour alongside the newly crowned Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth on an historic visit, the first by a winning mon
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Elizabeth,
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth, the first by a whirling monarch to Australia.
reigning monarch,
Reigning monarch. Throughout the decades, more than 700,000 young Australians have taken part in the Duke of Edinburgh's Awards Games. But it was his straightforwardness and his ability to be himself that struck a chord with so many Australians. In 2011, his last visit to Australia with the Queen, the then Prime Minister Julia Gillard described him as a man whose robust humor and common sense had always resonated with the Australian character. Newspaper headlines: Tributes to beloved Duke after a life of duty. We're all weeping with you, Ma'am, says the Sun, reflecting on the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. The Daily Mail focuses on the Queen's tribute to her husband, with the headline "Farewell, my beloved," while the Guardian highlights the Duke's devotion to his wife of 73 years, describing him as the Queen's steadfast supporter. The Daily Mirror says Prince Philip was her rock, her guide, and her companion, calling them partners in glorious reign, glorious reign. And the Daily Express says it is drowning the Queen in mourning the loss of an extraordinary man. Marrying into the royal family gave Prince Philip a sense of um, permanence, permanence, sense of permanence that was missing from his early years, according to the Weekend. It describes him as a tough surveyor of a wilderness childhood, beset by tragedy, beset by tragedy. The Guardian says the establishment had revealed him as an outsider, but his energy and intelligence introduced some much later fresh air to the monarchy. The paper says he then went on to make the most of his limited role as consort. Tributes continue following death of Duke. Good morning to our readers in the UK who are just waking up. Tributes are continuing today as part of commemorations for the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, who died at the age of 99 on Friday. Our latest coverage includes gun salutes to be fired at midday. At midday today, gun salutes will take place across the UK in Gibraltar and at sea. Gun salutes are traditionally fired to mark significant national events and were used to mark the death of Queen Victoria, and Winston Churchill. As London's Woolwich barracks, field guns dating from World War One will be fired. The same guns fired at the Prince Philip and the Queen's Landing in 1947 and then her coronation. Salutes will also be fired from the Tower of London, Tower of London, Cardiff Castle, Hillsborough Castle in Belfast, and Edinburgh Castle, as well as from the ships HMS Diamond, HMS Montreux, and HMNB Portsmouth. Philip joined the Royal Navy as a cadet, serving in World War II and rising up through the ranks from midshipman to first
Lieutenant.
by the end of the war. What will happen next? According to the BBC royal correspondent Nicholas Mitchell, some details of what happens next following the Duke's death will be made public today. On Saturday, gun salutes will take place across the UK and in
Gibraltar.
And in Gibraltar at 12 BST to honor the Duke. Among the locations where guns will be fired are the Tower of London, and Woolwich Barracks in London, as well as Belfast, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Portsmouth, and the robots. They will fire 41 rounds at one round every minute for 40 minutes. Royal Navy ships at sea, including HMS Diamond and HMS Montrose, will also fire the salute, a tribute to the Duke, who served as a naval officer during World War II and held, among other titles, the office of Lord High Admiral. The public are encouraged to observe the gun salutes from home, online, or on TV. Then, on Monday, the House of Commons will come back from recess a day early and sits to allow MPs to pay their tributes to the Duke. The date of the funeral has not yet been announced. Union and national flags will fly at half-mast on all government buildings until 8 BST on the day following the funeral. The Queen is now said to be considering changes to the funeral and ceremonial plans in the light of the current government advice and social distancing guidelines. How can the public pay their respects? Throughout yesterday, people visited Buckingham Palace to lay flowers at the gates, but because of the current coronavirus restrictions on mass gatherings, the royal family has asked people not to leave flowers and tributes to royal residents. Instead, people are asked to consider making a donation to the charity in memory of the Duke. An online book of condolence is also available for the public to post their personal tributes. According to the royal family's website, a selection of the message will be passed on to royals and may be held in the royal archives for posterity. In pictures, Australia fires gun salutes in Philip's memory. A 41 gun salute has been fired outside Parliament House in Canberra, the capital of Australia, to mark the death of Prince Philip. People gathered to watch the guns firing outside Parliament House. The Australian flag is flying at half-mast at Parliament House to mark the just passing